I'm Charlie Johnson, and I'm with Johnson Farms. We operate an organic, large-scale grain operation south of Madison, South Dakota. We grow corn, oats, soybeans, and alfalfa as our four major crops. We farm about 2,500 acres total, 1,600 of which is in tillable or row crop. And we've been certified organic since the early 1980s. I think weed control and farming in general is an ongoing process. There is no such thing as a weed-free organic field. There's no such thing as a weed-free farm. So there's just some basic parameters like late planting, patience, diversity, rotation. Let that lineup play for you. They're a good 1 through 9 team, baseball team for you. With our rotation, we divide our tillable acres up into about 6 equal portions, which means there's about 300 acres in each part of that 6-year rotation. We grow oats at the beginning of the rotation as a nurse crop of alfalfa, and alfalfa hay for 2 years. And then after that, we go into row crops for 3 years, which is soybeans, corn, and soybeans. What I really like about our rotation is that roughly half of our ground is always in what we call cover crops, oats or alfalfa, the other half in row crop. Well, one thing that we've noticed, especially with the emphasis on alfalfa in our rotation, and it's a perennial and it's a smother crop, is that we've pretty much eliminated Canada thistle as being a weed pressure on our farm. And so that's been helpful. But the one weed that we tend to still tackle yet on an annual basis is the annual foxtail. We don't base our cropping or planting decisions based on, well, organic corn's bringing more this year, or wheat is, or some other commodity. We let common sense and agronomy drive our decisions and not necessarily the market. The number one rule that I say for row crop farming is plant late. Make sure that you've got soils that are warm and moist and that can create rapid emergence after they're planted. I've had some of my better crops, both from standpoint of yield and weed control, when they've been planted in late May or even the first half of June. One of the great advantages of planting late is that you're able to destroy or eliminate 1 or 2 or maybe 3 crops of weeds before they come up and compete with the corn and beans. Also, with the rapid emergence that occurs in later part of May or early June, you're able to have row crops that come up real fast, which means you have an advantage of getting those crops growing and going before the weeds do. What I really promote too on an organic farm is, instead of having one real nice tractor, try to have 3 or 4. I think as long as you make sure you have as many tools in the toolbox, that's important. This is a rotary hoe. With a rotary hoe, you go early and you go often. And so that's the key to success. We actually have 4 of these units on our farm. So in early June to mid-June, they're our main device for weed control. It's one of the more vital machines that we have on our farm. We have invested in a fair amount of field drainage tiling, and what it's helped is it's eliminated those wet areas that either don't get farmed properly or there gets to be compaction because they're being tilled too wet. And so I think a lot of our weed control has been helped by having properly placed field tile. Compaction is basically a haven for weeds, and so one of the things you got to be aware of is wet conditions. That's a big factor. Your headlands, where you're doing a lot of the turning around, both when you're prepping a field to plant and when you plant and when you cultivate, that type of traffic can be cause for compaction, which then in turn creates a lot more weed pressure. We'll walk every row of our corn and soybean fields in late July, early August, because for every wild sunflower cocklebur that we can eliminate, we're going to eliminate dozens the following year. And so by just making that as an annual practice, it helps to control our seed bank. For a lot of operators, when it comes to the end of the season, they're writing out a check for the fertilizer or the chemicals. Well, when I'm using my rotary hoe or using my tractor or using my harrow or my row cultivator, that all gets to stay on the farm. And so those are dollars and cents that stay on the farm versus me writing a check for inputs. So I really like the fact that like the 7200 that I have my rotary hoe on today, I bought it 6 years ago for $50,000. It's worth that today. It's paid for, and I can use it every year, and it really doesn't cost me anything other than some repairs and fuel that goes into it. What the rotation does is it really reduces my risk in inputs, you know, because when fertilizer prices have tripled this year in a lot of cases throughout the country, my chicken manure went from 9 cents a pound to 10 cents a pound. Well, I can live with that. I don't have that tripling of fertilizer costs. I have alfalfa that's storing nitrogen for me for future crops. Soybeans to a lesser effect. I've got oats that are providing a smother crop, which is controlling weeds, which lowers the need for any chemicals down the road. The other thing I want to talk about from a sociological standpoint is, and it's not just because it's organic farming, but just because it takes more management, it takes more intensity, more observation. There's more people being involved on the farm. The farm our size, even though it's fairly large for organic, would probably only enable 1 or 2 people to be farming today from a commercial standpoint. Whereas with organic farming, we've got 4 full-time farmers involved. There's 3 brothers, Charlie and Alan and Kevin, and then my son Jordan. If we really want to look at the fact that we want to build our churches and schools back and have more community here and more of a small town, rural atmosphere, it doesn't necessarily have to be organic farming, but it just needs to be a farming that emphasizes more hands-on weed control, more hands-on diversity, more hands-on crop rotation, more hands-on emphasis on people.